You know, I have been working in the same sort of groups of towns over the last 20 years now. I can't quite say why I'm drawn to these settings. But what I do know is when I come up from New York and I start entering into this landscape, I literally feel the creative urges coming together. This is funny. I've driven down here hundreds of times, but never really considered the taxi depot as a location. I always sort of drove through it. The whole process of making art is an act of faith in a way. This idea that you're going to will something into existence that means something to the larger world. Particularly in my way of making pictures, which is this kind of preoccupation with trying to make something perfect. We have a car like this, let's just say for a second. So he would be like...
We would see his face, yeah.
Yeah, then the door, her car door would be open.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right, and then she sort of turned away from him outside. I think it's a little, yeah, it could be like a, I think the car could actually go back like another foot and maybe 1 or 2 feet.
Push the car forward, and you're going to go hard down on the right.
Hold that. Stand by. Okay, let's try that. Thanks.
Greg Crutzen, it's like a household name here. People that at least keep up with current, events or daily news around town at least know that there's a guy that takes pictures and shuts streets down and does wacky stuff.
That's great. Can you just try sitting in the back seat of the passenger side?
Sure.
Yeah. No. He's too obscure in there. Back in the front seat?
Back in the front seat.
Okay, that's the way I'll be.
Okay.
So this is your spot. These aren't the orange marks.
Okay.
I'm going to go to camera and sort of direct you, but
Yeah.
it's basically you're just like sort of pulling open the skirt, and once we get into it, we'll see how the comfort level is in terms of going further than that.
Is there a particular mood or emotion?
Sad.
I'm just...
Yeah, sad.
Sad I can do.
And then you're also sort of, it's a slight sense of regret. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, we're going to start there. Have her move just very slight, whole body very slightly to camera. All right, not too much. Go back. Too much. Go back, go back, go back, go back. Right there. Good. Okay. Try a little bit more. Good. Okay, so let's start shooting. Position. And hold. You can tell her it's going to be a 1 second exposure.
It's going to be a 1 second exposure.
That's really nice. Okay. Okay, position. And hold. Do it again. Okay. Position. And hold.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gregory Crutzen.
Gregory Crutzen's photographs are elaborately staged, and they're also influential. Some experts say Crutzen has changed the course of photography.
His latest shows opened in galleries and museums in the U.S. and Europe and his prints sell for as much as $125,000. That helps finance productions that cost nearly as much as an independent movie.
Well, the key to Gregory's work is film. That richness, that complexity, that attention to detail is, there are 1,000 things in every picture that have been set up. I'm not sure that everyone looking at the work understands that they're looking at something that has production value of a movie. I'd love to be in a gallery with a stopwatch and time how long people stand in front of Gregory's pictures.
The pictures are about creating a world. I've always had images inside my head that I feel like I want to get out in the world. And these towns, these neighborhoods, were really backdrops for a more submerged psychological drama. It's really kind of projection for my own story that explored my own anxieties and fears and desires. One thing I've always tried to do is long-distance swimming. You sort of get lost in yourself, and there's a sense of being apart from the world. Also a certain terror that when you're swimming out of the lake and it's just murky, and you can't quite see what's underneath. The idea is try to get lost in a rhythm and allow your imagination to open up. And then through that process, some kind of images once in a while will come up to the surface. So this picture's changed a little bit.
This is a final kind of thing, what you
No, the scenario's now different. There's going to be this young, sort of beautiful, like 12-year-old girl who's like has very pale and has reddish hair. She's sitting on the edge of the bed, and she's sort of looking into this bed like a sort of older sort of mother figure who's asleep. I wanted it to feel like very old and gothic, otherworldly, almost like a fairy tale, this one. So we'll see if I can pull it off. Beneath the Roses was originally conceived as a movie, actually. Pretty much soon after that, I abandoned the idea of making a movie, and I just thought I'd start making these pictures. Maybe this is too straight on. Let's go back.
Straight onto the woman laying and straight out.
Beneath the Roses marked really the first time where we ever worked on that kind of level, where there was a budget and there was a crew and there was a schedule. It felt very much like making a small independent movie or something.
I was kind of thinking about maybe going with the pink sheets. The blankets are great, though.
Yeah. Pink sheets would be fine as long as they go if they go down.
Yeah.
Like in Beneath the Roses, there were two very definitive ways of making pictures. It's either on location or working on a soundstage, where we work closely with an art department and construct things from nothing.
I want this window to be the window out the window.
Yeah. Which
Can I go carry this, stand around with that someplace?
Let us see how it looks out there. Yeah, and then go this way. That's nice. Good. That seems right to me. What do you think?
In Gregory's work, it's very much about the details. There's not one element in there about which he hasn't made a decision, and it's in there for a reason. They picked props from this particular period, of this particular color, worn in this particular way, because it needs to achieve this particular effect. And I guess I see that as kind of marvelously obsessive and attentive.
What do you think of these lamps?
I don't mind the white one with the little flower on it. Oh, the other one. Yeah, simpler.
Right, well, we can spray it down.
Yeah.
Everyone who's worked on my pictures come from movies. One thing they're not used to is me sort of micromanaging every little element. But unlike a movie, a photograph is frozen, so it has to be exactly right.
This place is really starting to look a little scary, isn't it?
Is it?
Don't you think?
Yes.
I love all the dust on the floor. Oh, hello. Hey, Samantha, how are you? And it's going to feel like moonlight coming in. And it's going to be like kind of the mother sleeping in the bed here. And that's going to be and you're going to be, we'll position it later, but you'll be like turned away.
Do you think the woman should be
More covered.
She's covered, yeah.
Yeah, and then we maybe just the legs coming out.
Yeah.
I think we should go understand.
My attraction to Gregory's work and why I started working with him is I have a total fascination with what's going on beneath the surface, and that seems totally what Gregory's about. I don't see the pictures as being that dark though. You can't read the thoughts of any of these people, and it's just one frozen moment in time. Who's to say what's going to happen the moment after that moment?
How about, I know how we should do it. I'm just gonna, I want to see part of your leg coming through.
Sure.
Yeah.
Nice little varicose vein.
Yeah. Look how beautiful that is.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Just to start with.
Yes. Yeah.
Now just try it. Open your legs so just a little bit to get some separation. Yeah. Let's try swinging the camera this way to see more. She's so great looking. I like that. I'm liking that better. See more of her. Let's keep going. Rika, ready in 10 minutes? Yeah. Oh, shit. Look at her. I mean, that's it, right? Let's see more of your hair.
Okay.
But still, this hand's the problem.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna try it. First exposure, position, and hold. Perfect. Ready again? Ready? This time just try putting your hands like this, very slightly, and just looking this way. Yeah, that's amazing. Her expression's incredible. That's nice. Keep that. Hold it. Position. And hold.
I really love that dynamic between beauty and sadness because I think those are two dynamics that we experience continuously. There's always these moments of quiet alienation and the sense of disconnect, but also these moments of possibility.
That's a wrap for Samantha. Great job. Thanks for coming all the way and have a really nice, good drive back. Okay. First and foremost, my photographs are grounded in a kind of psychology that could certainly be tied to the fact that my father was a psychoanalyst and he had this profound influence on my development. I feel like I'm opening a secret ballad. Oh, wow. Oh, my God. And this is my family. My God. Me with my brother and sister. This is the house on Lake Buell. This is on 2nd Street where I grew up. Look at those cars. I grew up in Park Slope in Brooklyn. My father had his office in the basement of our house, and I don't think we really had a real conception of what was happening in the basement, but what we did know is that whatever was happening there was secret and was a mystery to us. I have a memory of trying to listen to the sessions as I put my ear to the floorboard. And I look back at it now, and that's a really potent metaphor of what I do as a photographer, and as trying to project fantasy of something that's forbidden or secret or beneath the surface of things.
My father brought me to the Diane Arbus retrospective at the Museum of Modern Art when I was 10 years old. And certainly for the first time, I understood the psychological power and urgency that a photograph could have. That sense of awe and terror. I particularly remember this picture, the Jewish giant. It's such a profound picture, but I love how it's just this great sense of dislocation in the domestic space. I always felt sort of strangely aligned to her pictures, although on the surface there's very little seeming connection in terms of the way we make pictures, but I strongly admire the vision. And I still to this day wonder why my father brought me to the museum, because it's not something we typically did as a family. But I'm thankful for it, because I think it really did, in a way, plant the seed, for me.
Let's see. It's really nice.
This is all about this corner, particularly the Madison, the bar, which I love because it's just like a cube. I've just visited this many times and then saw people hanging out there. I realized that it would be really nice just to have someone just sitting in a sort of beautiful light. And I like that idea of also intoxication, like, they've been drinking maybe and come out, and how the world just sort of changes a little bit,
Most of the photographs were on location for 2 days. Usually the day before is like a pre-shoot day, setting up lights. But then the day of the shoot, there's a lot of issues that are being dealt with because there's so many things that could go wrong.
I don't think there was ever a time, certainly in Beneath the Roses, where I didn't wake up on the morning of the production with absolute feeling sick to my stomach and filled with a sense of doom.
Never a white car, Never a white car. This one's possible, but never, no, not a white car.
I thought if we put it way in the background with another car behind it, just the red top would show up, so that way we could just use its shape.
No.
One block down, we're going to have barricades across Madison on Daniels Ave. We may not have to close it all down, but if we can just at least prevent you guys from getting hit.
See where the camera is over there? With that guy in the red shirt? So we're going to be sort of looking all the way through here, and this is all going to be closed, and it's all going to be beautifully lit, and you're going to be sitting right here at the curb.
Right there?
Yeah, just just sort of looking up at the light. You don't have to do much.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Do you remember your lines? I'm just kidding.
No. No line. Actually, I clean houses. He just asked me the other day. But I've been cleaning for him for a while, a couple years.
How do you feel about it?
Marcus. Nervous.
These three lights are roughly photo.
So I'm not photogenic at all. But it's interesting.
The second guy down there, he's doing too much of the hill. He has to come up this way. Yeah. So the parked car, is this in danger of being in the light?
Yes.
Yeah, so we should move it, right?
The problem here, of course, is the sun sets right in our shot, so it shortens our shooting time significantly. So we have to wait about 15 minutes after the sun set. That gives us about 20 minutes of shooting only.
Fireman could clear frame, fire truck and everything. Don't be nervous. You'll be in your own world. Now just look above those trees, a little higher. I'm gonna see how it looks from camera, okay? Have her come like a foot closer to camera. Just open your mouth very slightly. Try smoking a cigarette, actually. Try sitting right more on the curb a little bit. Yeah. Now try back where you had your hands up. Maybe too much. Just try that. Like that. That's good. Now tell her to look. Try touching her hands to the curb. That's better. Now stretch out her legs a little bit. Sort of. Yeah. We're ready. Just get lost in your own mood, okay? Just get lost. Okay. It's perfect. Just try that.
All the photographs made on location are made in twilight. Mostly because that's when we could use the lights.
That's nice. I like that.
You couldn't really work with these lights in the middle of the day. And at night, it'd be just way too contrasty. So there's a very small period of time where it all comes together.
Oh, yeah. Okay, shooting. Okay, position and hold. Beautiful. Let's do it again.
I prefer not to be behind the camera
Just a little early.
because I want the most direct experience with the subject as possible.
Great. Colleen could just look a slightly bit more towards camera.
My pictures are about a search for a moment, a perfect moment in a way. To me, the most powerful moment in the whole process is when everything comes together and there is that perfect, beautiful, still moment.
Look at that sky. That's the best sky we've ever had.
And for that instance, my life makes sense.
Here we go, man. I think this is it. Okay, last exposure for Colleen. Position and hold.
Photography always has an association with an attempt to preserve a moment, you know, to like hold on to something.
My original intention was that I was going to follow in my father's footsteps and try to be a psychiatrist. But that path was very difficult for me.
When I was going through school, I had a very hard time with academia. Certainly had undiagnosed dyslexia. I still struggle with it today. But the very act of reading and taking tests was always a huge struggle for me.
Through my years in high school, I was really preoccupied with music and was in a band called the Speedies. We played in like the late 70s.
You say you want my autograph. Let me take a photo.
Our one underground hit was a song that I wrote called Let Me Take Your Photo.
Let me take a photo.
The Speedies had our moment. We had like 1 year of New York success.
There we are. Speedies. Max's, Kansas City.
And then it was really amazing. 25 years later, the song Let Me Take Your Photo was rediscovered and used for an HP commercial. I had no real interest in photography at the time, but I developed a crush on this girl who was a photographer. That was really the reason I took my first photography class. And I fell in love with the medium.
When I took my first picture, I was like, oh, I can do this. I was immediately comforted by the stillness and the order of a picture. It made perfect sense to me.
Gregory was my student. He was really a cute kid, and he was making kind of amazing work. It had flavors of a suburban culture, which is interesting because, Gregory was a Brooklyn kid.
I was at Yale. Particularly at that time, Yale was very known for a very traditional approach to the medium. The whole program was based on the tradition of documentary photography. Photographers who tried to find poetic truth in the world. But at the same time, I was going down to New York and seeing in galleries, big shows by Cindy Sherman and Laura Simmons and others who were using photography in an absolutely oppositional way, as fictions and constructs.
For a young photographer like Gregory at the time, to see this must have opened up myriad possibilities to him about how much he could invent narratives and characters. He didn't have to be dependent upon what was before him in the real world.
And then during that time, when I saw Blue Velvet, it was a film that really changed my view of the world, I think. I was already trying to look into domestic life and find sort of unexpected mystery. But when I saw David Lynch's film, it defined that even further. And I started using light and color to try to create a photographic language that hovered between the documentary picture and something more cinematic. These were pictures that were made in Lee and Pittsfield and other Massachusetts towns. And I think that's why I've been able to do what I do here. It's because I built up over years a relationship to the community.
My son Jack here, and I said, that's the Subaru. I was thinking,
Yes.
good
Hey.
to see it.
There are certain artists that sort of work in that way of continually coming back over and over again to a particular place. John Cheever writing about Westchester, or Hopper is a great example. Essentially, he just came back to the same places over and over again, and to try to find new meaning in those places. Scouting is the part I really love, but by any standard, I think it's kind of a strange process.
I'm looking for a setting that has the capacity to tell one of my stories. So I'll just get in my car and I'll drive repeatedly over streets that I've gone by hundreds of times, looking for something familiar, yet it feels like anywhere but nowhere, very ordinary, but also something beautiful about it,
I used to go to movies here as a child at the Cinema Plaza. Evidently, the movie theater closed after they found that one of the ushers was, turns out was like a serial killer. It was actually a famous case. It reminds me of the Last Picture Show,
What are you doing?
Well, I'm location scouting for some pictures that I'm doing this summer.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
It's a functioning place.
Yes, that it is.
I love the sort of fluorescence of it, you know. Kind of like just the emptiness of this, again, the abandoned feel. The one thing that's absent from my whole process of location scouting is a camera. I just keep it inside my head, you know, like I take mental pictures. It's much more about getting a sense of the place, you know.
Well, Pittsfield, growing up, was always like the big town that we used to go to movies and stuff to, but it's gone through a lot of economic changes. GE was located there, and GE pulled out, and there's a certain kind of emptied out quality to it. Sadness. There's emptied out streets. That's like a byproduct of that.
Those are abandoned towns, factory mill towns. So those towns just died, and they have never really recovered. And there's a kind of haunted quality to them, I think. That Gregory's pictures captures exactly.
I mean, there's something spectacular about the settings of those shots that has to do, I think, with the way capitalism is failing in a very beautiful ancient landscape. I mean, I don't know that you could sit him down and say, you know, is there an implicit economic critique happening in these images? He would resist that probably, but I think there is. There's a sense of heightened emotion and drama, partly because of the disenfranchisement that's taking place there.
The majority of Americans live lives of quiet desperation, and those are the lives that Gregory is portraying. To me, it's a humanistic embrace that has political implications.
But I think Greg wants the images to be able to live, you know, on 50 different registers at once.
I do think that the pictures capture some of the sense of despair or poverty, but they're not political in any direct way. If that is there, I want it to be more submerged in terms of the content.
I like this vantage point a lot. I think this will definitely be a picture, right, going down here. Look at that thing. That's so strange. A picture I imagined was looking down that street, and there'd be like a lone figure sort of wandering, carting possessions in a cart, and there he is. I think that's a sign. I think that's... Oh, I know that guy. Hey, it's Gregory.
Stealing the town again?
Yeah.
You're the closest thing to an art historian we got. Keep it up.
Hey, yeah, he'll be in that picture. That's the sign. That's exactly how the pictures work. So it's interesting because I was drawn to this Kent Street, and I started
visiting it. The day we finalized, the next morning, one of the houses was gone. Like it took him an hour to like dismantle. So like within a day, 2 of the houses were gone. And then they were going to destroy the last house on the right here, which I think is pivotal to the next picture. Things are changing really quickly, and so for me, it's even more of a reason to make the picture. So I'm actually incorporating that as part of the photograph.
Do you think it would be okay if I could put a whole writing frame over there? Part of me feels like it'd be really cool to, you know, the gouge you put out.
You want one of them right in that corner?
Will that collapse the building?
Oh,
if we
God,
did? No. That is fucking cool.
Ready to rock? This one's influenced by you, by the way. Do you know that?
Oh, it's fucking imitation.
Yeah, I know.
I would never be caught doing the shopping cart. You know what's on?
I know you have that big cart.
I have my LaSalle. I don't deal with these model machines.
I know.
I tell people I'm a junk picker when they tell me I'm an artist.
What do you think?
I'm a junk picker. I wouldn't be cut dead with this shit.
Just keep this very relaxed if you're just pushing along. That's great. Clear frame? Okay. Okay, that's beautiful. Let's do another fog run. Okay, position and hold.
We've been coming up to Western Massachusetts since I'm a very small child. During the summers, my father rented a little cabin on Lake Buell. So I have very early and very powerful memories of coming up here. I've always returned here not only to make pictures, but also in sort of transitional parts of my life.
There was a period of time earlier in my life where I continued to try to make the pictures I was making previously, and I just couldn't do it. I was like going through a crisis point in the work. I wound up coming back to this cabin again. I just started making dirt piles in the backyard of this cabin. I would just like dig up dirt, make a little pile, photograph it. When you're in a kind of crisis point, you just try these different things. Eventually, those pictures slowly became my first tableaus. Those pictures are very influenced by museum dioramas. I had just started getting some attention, just starting to have shows and things. but my first marriage started falling apart, actually. And so wasn't conscious of it at the time, but you look at some of these last pictures I made in this series, and they're very repulsive and grotesque. And I think that all reflected my state of mind. And I was starting to have these weird dreams of floating dreams. This is like a kind of common anxiety dream. I kept thinking it would be really interesting to do a series of pictures from an elevated point of view. I couldn't get that out of my mind. And I started thinking, well, it'd be interesting if we could make some kind of interventions into the street. And we did these pictures with no permits, no permission. No one seemed to care or even be interested. There's one picture that I called down to my assistant. I said, call 911 and tell them there's someone sodding the street closed. And that's how we got that police car to come in.
I had just finished the cover photographs. I knew that in my next body of work, I wanted to use lighting in a more prominent way. And then when I met Rick, I saw a way that that could happen.
That's good, walk away on that. And kill the par light that's backlighting the car. Gregory started telling me what his ideas were for the, not for lighting, but for the photograph, for the images. And they sounded pretty interesting. So I said, okay, I'll work with you, see what happens.
We got to get him up there focused once.
It was the first time I met someone who worked in film and lighting on that kind of range. And then I saw it all, like what the next step was going to be.
Get in there.
I wanted cinematic quality to the photographs.
Can it go a little higher?
And I knew I wanted it to be more theatrical.
Okay, that's perfect.
But I was so excited. My real excitement was coming from the possibility of working with light on this scale. That was the thing that, to me, felt so brand new and exciting. The first picture we ever did together, I had an idea of making a photograph of a guy who was cleaning like those portable toilets with the big tubes. I don't know why I thought of that. That's interesting. Second picture we took, a woman, I barely knew her. I knocked on her door and I said, I have an idea I want to propose to you. I want to make a garden in your living room. And she's like, let's do it. I had the image of the woman floating in her living room.
Ophelia. For years, I just had this image existing within me, and then I had the opportunity to work on a soundstage for the first time. And so immediately I knew this was the picture I was going to make.
At that time, it just felt so vibrant and like anything was possible. And it was also like so undefined because we barely knew what we were doing.
I'm nervous about it. I just don't want any kid underneath it. Watch it. All right. I don't want to look at this.
For me, when I look back at those pictures, I feel like they're almost intoxicated with the excitement of stumbling upon a new kind of photographic language.
So, we have permission to close the road?
No.
But please make sure that it's open, that all necessary vehicles can get through, including the fire truck, okay?
Okay, we will.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, 5 minutes. Gotta move this. Position. Okay, I want a quiet set now, everyone. Okay, fog, let's go. That's fine. Okay, ready to shoot? Yeah.
I think it was then that I started trying to connect photography and film. You know, the pictures are referencing certain movies, Hitchcock, 1950s melodrama, or the horror film. The whole aesthetic tradition of looking for an intersection between everyday life and some sense of theatricality.
However, it's a very different kind of storytelling than a filmmaker or a writer would create.
My pictures are the moment between moments, really. And I think Twilight is sort of a beautiful kind of metaphor for that.
Dusk. It's a changeover time of day where people's lives are shifting from public to private. From the exterior, outside world to the interior world of the kitchen, the bedroom, the living room, the home. They're secrets. We all have secrets. And I think that Gregory's sense of human life, daily life, is informed by that understanding. And you see in his photos, people living with secrets. Not happily so.
Writers like visual arts that are narrative, and Greg's work's really narrative. Let me find a good one in here. I mean, here's the one that I opened to at random. This is a motel image. There's two separate stories in this one, because there's two rooms with the door open. For someone who's interested in trying to dream up stories, you can have a field day with something like this. I have one of the diorama images. I just became friendly with him and we stayed friendly. You know, obvious thing would be to say that he seethes with misery and darkness, but he really doesn't, actually. I mean, he's a fairly lighthearted, easygoing guy who's awfully funny. But at the same time, you would be an idiot not to surmise that the darker shades are down under there, and every now and then you get a glimpse. For example, I visited him up there, and we met at this certain pond where he likes to swim. And he basically wades into the lake and just takes off without anxiety to the middle of the lake. Half an hour later, he comes back. Greg said, by the way, they found a corpse in the lake the other day. And there's a kind of excitement in him as he notes this fact.
It was a 70-year-old man.
And they don't know who it is?
No.
It's creepy.
I know. Fortunately, I didn't swim directly into the corpse.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm only concerned with that particular moment, the moment of the picture. I really don't have any interest in what happens before or what happens after. And in a certain way, it's a privilege that I don't have to think about plot or storyline or character development. That I could just focus on that moment and how to make that moment as beautiful and mysterious as possible. So this is the final drawing of one of the pictures that we made on a soundstage. This was the original description that Kazi and I put together. We are looking from a living room into an ordinary suburban kitchen. It appears aged and somewhat neglected. Facing the sink and counter, we see through the murky window out into a backyard. Beyond the fence, light can be seen in neighboring houses. The room is dimly lit. A fluorescent light buzzes above the dirty counter, revealing peeling paint and worn fixtures. Some of the cabinets are ajar, showing a few sparse tins and containers. Unwashed dishes remain in the sink, and leftover coffee is long cold. A soft light can be discerned shining from a stairway leading off from the right. Traces of muddy footprints lead out through the kitchen door into the sodden yard. It has been raining and the night air is cold and damp. Through the open door, we see a middle-aged man. He's staring down pensively into an open hatch, his face softly illuminated by the glow from underneath. Beneath him stands an old shed, lit from within. This is Oak Street. But I really like these houses here, actually, the irregularity of the houses. I've probably sat at this very spot for maybe 100 times. And I'm not committed to it yet. I think there's something to be said about just staying in one very confined area. I mean, I could very easily just work in like this one little neighborhood.
Too picturesque.
Might be difficult to shoot here because it's a working railroad, but we'll see. Over here, this is the Hoosick Tunnel. I think it's like 4 miles long. Well, that's the abyss right there. That'd be something to do something in here. Wow. Well, I'd like to recreate the bathroom of Psycho. That's what I'd like to do. It's one of my favorite scenes of any movie.
Well, so basically it's like you're looking at the sink.
The toilet's on this side, which,
so
but we need to see a peek of it on this side too. You know, it's a birthing scene, so there's going to be a mother and a newborn child. I still haven't figured out if we're going to use an actual
newborn in this or if it's going to be
Fake baby.
fake baby. I haven't quite.
I mean, fake baby's easy enough. And, you know, if the newborn materializes and behaves itself, so much the better.
How many kids do you have?
4.
Wow. Oh my God.
2 boys, 2 girls. Yeah, I started young.
How old are you?
27. So you want me to just try them on and then come out here? Yeah, that's fine.
Look sad.
Look sad? Okay.
That's great, thank you.
Gonna get ready for baby. Now just move the lamp all the way to one side. Yeah, and then slowly come up. I'll tell you when to stop. Perfect. The original inspiration for this photograph came from Psycho. It's a very minimum degree now because it's changed. Now it's a snow scene. You know what we're gonna do? Is we'll have that like lining the entire thing, and then we'll have one set of footprints going in. Hello. Oh, you look great. What are you wearing? The green?
Yes.
Perfect. So we're going to plan to shoot at 1. We're on schedule. So what I think we should do with the baby is like right before that, just feed her.
We're getting the bottle going now.
Yeah, keep her awake, and then she'll be out. And if she's not, we'll just wait for her. I mean, you know the star. Got to wait for the star treatment. It's going to be beautiful. So I visited her, and she's never been in a photograph. Has 0 acting experience, but she's so super excited about being in the picture. And when I met her, the baby was asleep. So I'm hoping the baby will be asleep. Has to be asleep for this picture.
Back it up, 3 inches. Nope, I'm sorry, go forward, out of frame.
Nope. That's better. Yeah, that's better. It's just a slither.
Sure. Gregory, they're feeding her at 1:45 the
Perfect.
baby, so she'll be ready at 1.
Right. Baby's the only wild card. Beautiful. Okay. For me, the picture is about the strange tension of this birth. It's such a beautiful thing, but you have to ask, why is this woman alone in a hotel room? Was the baby just born? I want all that to be ambiguous. It's okay. We'll just...
Of course, the baby was 2 weeks old. Every time we tried to put the baby down on the bed, it started crying. And I was like, oh, shit.
We got all the time in the world. She'll fall asleep eventually. There she goes. This is my one and only baby picture. Never to be done again.
It was hours. And then we got the idea to put a heating blanket underneath the blanket of the bed. Put the baby down, and with fell asleep immediately.
Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. She's like beyond perfect. She should move her right arm a little bit to the edge of the bed. Good. Oh my God. Keep going. Position. These are all the exposures. When I'm on the set, it just looks really beautiful, and it's exactly how I imagined it. But then when we develop the film, it's always disappointing. It feels like a failure in one way or another. But then I always have to remind myself that that's only one part of the process. When you start in post-production, it's almost like starting again. The camera reports to fully get a sense of it. So for every given shoot, we'd shoot between 40 and 50 frames. The camera position's always fixed, so we can composite between 4 and 5 different negatives to create that perfect moment. That's a raw scan, right?
Yeah, this was the outside, the scan we decided to use for the outside. And then I cut and pasted the woman and her baby. We weren't too happy with this baby. Her position wasn't so good. So we added the next baby. What do you think about the light on him?
I think it's really good.
Okay,
We
good.
took some of the yellow out, I think. Right?
Yeah. In the bathroom, I added another bathroom which was sharper and a little less blown out with the highlights.
And then took that light out.
We got rid of the light entirely. In here, the light's gone.
The whole process of making pictures is so deeply connected to failure.
Do I see like lines in the sky, or am I imagining?
I think we're seeing reflection.
That's a reflection. Okay.
You have an expectation, you have a dream of what your picture is going to be, and then something always necessarily goes wrong.
And then this should come down a little bit, I think, this
Okay.
here. That seems like too lit up.
When things go wrong in the right way,
And then
then it adds a certain unexpected mystery to the picture and transforms your original expectation of things. Disappointed to say I don't see anything, any problems.
Too perfect.
I know. But often things go wrong in the wrong way, and then you just have to understand that there are going to be pictures that you make that just don't work in the end. The risks sort of exist on many different levels. But you have to put all that aside, because if you're not going to make the picture, no one else will, you know.
We're doing another photograph here on North Street. This is the last photograph we're doing, and I wanted a really good title on the marquee, so I thought Brief Encounter was good.
Brief Encounter was by far the most challenging of any of the productions of Beneath the Roses. It's sort of the largest scale, it's most complicated. It was also this gift because it was the one picture where there was an actual snowstorm coming, so the city had agreed to close the main street.
We're just going to hope for as much snow as possible. It's sort of hard to believe this entire street's going to be filled with snow tomorrow. In any case, we've sent all our snow makers home, so we're going to rely on whatever nature does for us. Hey, George, it's Gregory.
and I just wanted to get the latest forecast from you because we need to make a call one way or another.
Maybe 6 to 10 inches or 6 to 9.
We don't need more than that.
Right.
Over here, there was like all these traffic signals they took out of the street for us, so we finally got a good camera angle.
The hardest challenge that we were met with was the combination of the weather and the lighting. In this case, about 75 lights over half a mile of space.
Can take pictures of, like the buildings or?
Just one picture. This is all for one picture.
Is it all for one picture?
Yeah. This entire street is going to be filled with snow tomorrow, but that's the scary part. It's going to slow down in the late afternoon, man. I said, well, you know, our prime time is like 5. He said, well, you might get lucky. Rico, if we pull this one off, man. And we are at the exact right place. It's just a matter of, are we at the exact right time?
Look at that. Snow.
It's exciting. It's a bit of a miracle, sort of. I don't want to say that too soon. Because you know what's starting to happen is these beautiful
Oh, look at the awning.
textures.
Yeah, the awning.
That's the stuff you can never duplicate.
They're going to close the street at noon, so we're going to hope to get at least a little layer of snow on the main street, but we'll get what we get.
This is by far the largest scoped picture, so it's a bit of a miracle. We got the snow. We've worked very closely with the town and we pre-lit it, so around 4:30 this entire street will be illuminated. Hey Sarah, we have another shoveler down there.
Well, could you do me a massive favor? Could you now what? Could you not?
Who's going to tell you if somebody falls out here? Who's going to be responsible? I'm going to be salting this too. You guys come in, you take right over the city, and if somebody falls, then I'm going to be taken to court because it's not clean. Come on, Meredith.
We need to clear the interior here. This is wrong. This needs to be switched. Her back is supposed to be this way.
Can I get a hand inside the pizza place, please?
And we need to set up a little meal here with plates. We need to go down a little bit, and then this needs to be cleared because we need to see the person inside the car. Okay, he's basically just going right in the middle of that lane.
Well, hold on, Ian, stop driving. I'll tell you when you're...
So the picture is about this perfect virgin track of snow. At the very last moment, there was a problem because the electrical companies couldn't turn off the street lights till the very last moment.
Hey, hey!
These like big trucks came in and just marked up the entire street.
We got some interesting tracks.
I know.
Can you do anything about it?
We have some of that stuff that Brotherhood gave us.
Yeah, just if it matches the color, do it. Try it. Yeah.
And also,
We did our best to like cover the tracks, and then we had to do the rest in post-production.
What's
This
wrong?
is just one track.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And the picture's so amazing.
Okay, there's the bus and the car.
Okay, let me see.
Check it out.
It's beautiful. I love it. Do you? Okay, no hat.
No hat, shirt with some
Okay,
red.
great.
You got it?
Don't go out of position ever, but you can just relax it, like shake it out and stuff.
I have my left heel up in the air.
No, just like that.
Okay.
Yeah. A little bit more up. Yeah, perfect. Great. Jesse, have the man look down a little bit.
I don't see any problems with that, so that's pretty
Good. Okay, and Larry should really be looking up more. Okay, perfect. Position and hold. Good? This is pretty fucking crazy, right? The woman in the restaurant should just relax a little bit in her body. There's our picture. Let's take it. This is it. This is it. Position. And hold. We did it! I can't even believe it. Great job, you guys. It's absolutely perfect.
Last one.
We did it. I mean, so crazy. What a set, huh? Is there a bar around here? We'll keep walking. We'll find one.
I knew when I was in the last production of Beneath the Roses, that was the final chapter of those pictures. All the lights went off and it all went to black. And I knew in my mind that that sort of marked the completion of this body of work. And it was very sad to me. There was a certain kind of finality to it. Beneath the Roses was an epic project.
How many are you thinking to hang in here?
I was thinking 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
You know, we made 50 pictures. That looks great on that wall. It was really good. It scanned 8 years. Look at this transition here, it's beautiful. There are hundreds of people involved. I also think that things got so large, I felt like I almost had to regain a sense of myself as a photographer. I wanted to reconnect to that sort of more organic understanding of what it means to make pictures.
So necessarily I have to take some time off because I can't go right back into anything.
There are moments in an artist's career where you have to challenge every expectation of what you think you know. I was in Rome for an exhibition, and I had always heard about Cinecittà, the fabled movie studio. So I asked to get a kind of private tour. And then when I went onto the back lot, when I saw all these collapsed old sets that were in various levels of decay, I knew immediately that that was going to be my next body of work. I saw it in my mind's eye. It was going to be smaller scale pictures of these abandoned movie sets. So we're going to shoot this one with fog and right down. It was the first time that I've ever shot outside of America. It's really the first time I ever shot outside of Massachusetts. This back lot, there's a kind of history of thousands of people who worked on these sets. But now there's this absence. It's a ghostly quality. I feel very strongly that every artist has one central story to tell. The struggle is to tell and retell that story over and over again in visual form. and try to challenge that story. But at the core, that story remains the same. It's like the defining story of who you are.